Hey everybody, Scoutcrafter here again. Mishmash Monday. We got a heck of a mosh today. A few things to talk about. Another beautiful day. Blue skies, puffy white clouds. I'm telling you, I think this COVID has something to do with the skies being so blue. I haven't seen this in years, so I'm loving it. We're going to enjoy it, and we'll get downstairs and talk about what we're going to do today. Before we get to our tool restorations today, a couple things to talk about. First of all, when I was a kid, growing up in the 70s in the Scouts, there was a big push for solar energy. You remember that? You know, and metric system and things like that. Well, we were learning solar energy and solar cooking, things like that. And then later on in life, I was introduced to the Fresnel Lens. Now, Augustin Fresnel, 1822, invents this lens. He was a French physicist. And he invented this lens because he was studying prisms and things like this. And the lens was amazing. If you don't know what a Fresnel lens is, it's a lens made up of a bunch of concentric lenses that are polished and set up in such a way that it transmits light a very long way. And there's so many examples of it, and you see on flashlight lenses, on beacons, on all kinds. But the most notably is the lighthouses used to use them years ago. And if you've ever seen one in person, they're just they're a beautiful piece of art to look at. A Fresnel lens. And but they do make them. They make certain ones like out of plastic and things like that today. So let me tell you a story. About 35 years ago, my cousin. We used to have smaller TVs. Remember when 19-inch TV was considered a pretty big TV? Well, my cousin had a TV, and he bought this magnifying lens. And when he bought this lens, it was supposed to make the TV look bigger. Anyway, he had it for a while, didn't use it much. Found out why later. But then my dad, he gave it to my father saw it, and he said, wow, my dad said, that's a great idea. And he goes, here, take it, Uncle Johnny. So he gave it to my father. My father brings it home. He says, John, set this up in front of the TV. So I set it up. And we're watching it, and I said, wow, look at this. It's, our TV wasn't that big, 20-something inches, but it made it seem bigger, like 36. And as we're watching it, like 15 minutes into watching it, our eyes start bugging out. And we're like, what the heck is going on? It turns out that it was good for 5 minutes, but after that, your eyes would get really, it would magnify the radiation or whatever, but we forget it, took it down. So my father said, get rid of that thing. So I put it down in the basement. And then I was experimenting one time using it outside. Now, this is the lens I'm talking about here. You can see here, this is the Fresnel. You can see how thin it is, right? But look at this. Can you see the magnification that you get out of this lens? Pretty amazing, right? Well, we're going to take this outside, and I'm going to show you how interesting this lens is. Okay, here we have our standard regular magnifying glass that you would normally get. This is a good quality one. You can see we'll bring this down here on the cardboard. And you can see it, once you get that focal length correct, you can see it's starting to smoke. You see that right there? And right about there, you got a pretty good idea of how strong this is. Now, we'll use the Fresnel lens here, this one, small one. And I'll show you how this one works. Again, get the focal, once you get it down, you can see how quickly that reacts, you see? Now, sometimes you have to make sure that you have the right side down. So here we go. You see this side works better. And you see that? You see how quickly it works? And we're getting some smoke and fire. But you can see what it does. It's limited. Now let's try the big one. Okay, now we're going to try the big one. You can see I'm going to get it down. And here we go. That's crazy, right? Now here we'll try it on this block of wood here. Same thing. Now, how amazing is that? Now, that lens came with a big vinyl bag that you would put over. It says, make sure you put this bag over the lens when not in use. And I was always wondering why, because, but now I know. Can you imagine if you had that lens in front of your television set and the sun came through the window? It would cut your TV in half, you know, as the sun was going by the window. Anyway, really interesting, right? And that thing will melt, literally melt a penny. I've done it. It'll melt tin cans, aluminum cans. It's phenomenal. It's like a little portable laser beam. Okay, let's see what we got as far as tool restorations for today. Okay, for today's, actually this week's project, I've been falling behind. I know, I told you this is a very difficult couple months for me because I got a lot going on, but I've had this for a long time, and I have to get it back to Abe. This is from my good friend Abe Elias from Diving Sparrow Knives, and you know, Abe's up in Canada. He sent me this a while back, and there's a couple repairs and things like that I want to do for him because he sent me that nice knife that you know that I put a handle on, and we got more coming from Abe that I'm trying to pick up one of his, he's got new knives coming. If you don't follow him, you should. He's on Instagram, on the Diving Sparrow. I'll put the link in here, and check him out on Instagram. He's always got some great stuff, great tips. Anyway, so here's the tools. This is just from fun. We were talking on the phone. A couple things. This is a nice pair, beautiful pair of these type of fencing pliers, which is really nice. The only problem is they're just a little bit loose, you see, so we're going to try and tighten up the rivet on the Dake. Second thing we got to do on the Dake for Abe is, look at this here. You see this nice Tremo wrench? You know, we've done these before, right? These are always nice, but look at this. That could be a problem, right? A little bend in this. We'll take care of that on the Dake. He's got a couple other wrenches here, and this one here. This one here is a probably a Baco. I can't. Oh, it says, I don't know. Does it say Buffalo? Oh, no, it's your Bacos. This is the type of Baco, and you could tell because they're usually opposite. Remember, you know, for us, we do this to close the wrench. Well, these, when you do this, it opens the wrench. But these were a lot of times came with the Volos, things like this. So we're going to throw this in some vinegar because it's just that type of rust, and it'll help get in there, and it is frozen. It's not working, so we'll throw that in vinegar for a day, but until then we'll get working on these and the Dake. Okay, here we are at the Dake, our favorite place, and we're going to check out this setup right now. Okay, you see here where the bend is, right? You see that? That's you could see there. So we want to put the pressure right about here, and again, you don't want to bugger up the threads, so we're going to put on some wood, and the wood also will cushion it. Now the wood will give as we start to apply pressure, but that's okay. We want it to give a little bit. That also holds it steady. So we'll crank it down, and hopefully it will, you know, won't spin out of my hand here. So once it starts getting down to the point where it makes contact right about there, and then you see here, now watch the bottom of it. See, it's pressing into the wood. It's okay. Press it down. It's going to press the wood a little bit. Now, again, you usually got to go a little bit past, but we'll raise it up. Okay, raise it up. Now, see, it pushed into the wood a little bit, but that's good because that holds it, you see? Now, let's take a look. How much of a... That's looking pretty decent, huh? Already? Look at that. We'll put it next to a straight edge just to see. It looks like we might have another 1/16 of an inch to go or so, but how nice is that? Working on it for a couple minutes, you can see we got this almost perfectly straight. But you take your square like this and you move it under here, and you could see that when it's resting here, we got a little bit of an uplift here. So that means we want this to come over like that, and we want to put the pressure right here by the neck, okay? And to do that, we take, again, rest the threads in here, but we're going to move it down further because we want to bend it here, and then put this under like this, and this will be where we want. And then hopefully this section here, look over here, this section here will bend more towards the piston when we push it down, you see? So here's what you got to watch. See that piston? You want this to move over there, and that's how you know. And again, you hold it just in case you don't want it slipping out. And we're going to put a little bit of pressure on. We only have, this is about 3.5 tons. Okay, not too much. And we'll look over here, take the square again, and you can see we're going to have to just work it a little bit further. You can see, because we want this to be flat and flush. just a little bit more. Okay, here we go. You see now, look at that. Look how nice this closes, you see? That's the way it should look. You see no gaps or anything, and nice and perfectly straight. So now we'll clean this up a little bit. Abe wants to, he's going to restore it, but we're going to just give it a clean up. Now, I just went over this with the wire brush here. You see here, a rivet usually has like a solid post with a flange at both ends, you know. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this nut, place it over the rivet, because we don't want to press too much on the inside. We want around the outside, around the flange area, and we're going to do this on top and bottom. Now, to hold this on the bottom, we're going to put a piece of masking tape over it, and this way it'll stay registered. Okay, here's the setup for the rivet tightening. We taped on the rivet right over the existing rivet. We taped those two nuts, and we're going to put this on some metal because we don't want to damage both the ram nor the plate. So we're going to rest it on top of these just pieces of scrap steel and then press it down. I'll show you that. Okay, here we go. We're going to, again, we want it centered, yet we want it protected by that scrap steel strapping. Now you can see how loose it is here. We'll just hopefully keep going until this tightens up. You see here? All right. Now it's tight. You see? No more movement. And that's 3.5 tons. Now we'll release the pressure and see if that held. Oh, look. Now it's so tight. It's hot. Oh, this is perfect. Worked perfect. That went well. Now you can see here we're going to take off the tape. Again, we use hardened nuts to do this. And you can see there's just a little indentation, but nothing really. Let's see on the other side if we... Okay, there you could see that double circle in there. That's where the nut was, and it pressed down. Now look, you see it's tight. It's very tight, but there's no lubricant in here yet. So this is, you couldn't ask for a better fix than that. Let's clean these both up. And Bob's your uncle. Now you know my favorite part. Remember what these fencing pliers look like before we started. And we are calling this project done. I know Abe just wanted to tighten it up, but I had to give this the full Scout Crafter treatment for Abe. Look at that, huh? Just beautiful. And look at this. Look at the top of that, huh? Is this not a pretty pair of fencing pliers now? I mean, it is super smooth and glossy and tight, and look, it loosened up just a little, see, just the way you would want it. And oh, I love these. I always love this style. Fencing pliers, if you use them, you know this style is just terrific. And let's try it out here. I have some okay, and we'll put it on, and you could see it works. And now this has a very interesting if you notice over here, has a very interesting little, you see that little notch there that overhangs? And that's so cool because I never seen that before. And then what that does is it stops the wire from falling out or shooting out, that little lip. Never saw that before. A nice little feature. I don't know who makes them, but these are something that you could put in your back pocket and really, you know, really feel good when you grab them. Love these. So there we have another episode in the can. Thanks very much for tuning in. I hope you have a nice day. Take care now. Bye-bye. Now, where else are you going to see stuff like this?